complete audio transcript of a channeling session featuring Ray, authors of The Law of One. The session was held by L Research in November 2023. Key topics discussed include the temptation of pride, working a traditional job while on the spiritual path, killing, and the origin of the moon. I am Kuo and am with this instrument at the time, and we greet each of you in love and in light of the one infinite Creator, who is everywhere at all times, speaking through one type of instrument on the planet and another, that may or may not be aware that they have the Creator within them. We are here this afternoon to lend our vibrations of seeking the one Creator to you, as we know you also seek this same Creator, and it is our honor to be here with you. At this time, we would ask if there is a query to which we may respond. Yeah, I have one. It concerns what we spoke of in the round robin. When you're really doing well and everything seems to be doing well, and then you run across something that just kind of flips your switch, and you go, whoop, I feel like, gosh, I thought I was making progress, but maybe I'm not. Could you comment on that and straighten me out a little on that, please? I am Kwao and am aware of your query. My brother, we find that what you are speaking of is the process of learning and growth within this third density illusion, where there is the veil of forgetting that prohibits seekers of truth from seeing the way that growth can occur most helpfully and most powerfully. When you are, as you say, moving along smoothly and all is going well, that suggests that the level of your own spiritual growth has become a smooth pond which requires no great effort to swim across. However, when something, as you say, pops up unexpectedly and causes, shall we say, waves within the water that make it difficult to swim, you are presented with a challenge that allows you to use that spiritual growth that you have accumulated to this point to move further in that growth, because growth often occurs because of change, and change is difficult. The change to move higher in your perception of the Creator around you, to move further into the love of the Creator that made you and all of the creation, to move in a path of harmony with the one Creator that presents itself to you and others that mirror to you difficulties that you may not be able to perceive or solve at the moment. However, if you apply your faith and will that such is possible, you expand your level of understanding, your level of perception of what you wish to do in your life path, of those choices you have made pre-incarnatively and would come around from time to time, and repeat until you notice them and then gave them your attention. Thus, growth comes from change, and change is often difficult. So, when you feel that something is happening in the moment that you do not understand, then it is that you are being presented with food for growth. My brother. Do you have a further query, my brother? Yes, Kuo. I find that the more I learn and progress, the more difficult it is for me to maintain a sense of humility. I have a temptation to feel superior or prideful. Can you please speak to the importance of humility for the student of spirituality? I am Kuo and am aware of your query, my brother. The feeling of pride is a feeling which, for the moment, presents one with a position or stasis in which one does not move. For the pride of achievement is that which feels that you have achieved what is necessary. Thus, the pride is that which seems to halt the spiritual growth that you have thought you accomplished. Whereas the feeling of humility is that which is the realization that though you have come some distance on the spiritual path of opening your heart in unconditional love to, that there is still a great distance to go. For the journey you are on is that which is eternal. Within the heart of your being, you know this within your subconscious mind. And when that subconscious knowledge can be brought into the conscious mind, then the feeling of humility is ever more possible to feel and manifest, as you are aware that, though you have come a distance, there is a great distance to go. Thus, the feeling of humility then becomes that quality within your being that reflects the nature of the creation as being infinite, and the journey back into unity with one infinite Creator to be that which is an infinite journey, and that which you are now looking at with new eyes, with eyes and heart, mind and soul of humility of the feeling that you are the one Creator, and yet there is much left to create. Is there a query at this time to which we may speak? Yes, I have a question. What is the best way to handle working with other humans on this planet who are envious of your journey? I am Kuo and am aware of the query, my sister. We find this an opportune query, for it relates to the previous query to which we answered, and it also speaks to the heart of the journey of the seeker within the third density and how a seeker may relate to those other selves about it, for it is in these relationships with other selves that your progression or your polarity of consciousness is developed most thoroughly. to address the specifics of your query, in which you wonder how to relate to those who seem to be envious of your journey, we must speak to the idea that everything that you perceive within an other self is a reflection of that which is within you, and this is also true of your other selves. That which they see within you is true within them. This is the nature of the creation, and particularly within the third density, where you are veiled from this knowledge of this fundamental reality. This can be a confusing and catalytic experience, but we ask you to remember this fundamental truth that the other self is self, and in this interaction between the self and the other self is the experience that the Creator is seeking by casting itself out within the illusion and hiding itself from itself. There is a sacredness to this interaction. In approaching this interaction and this dynamic with this sacredness in your heart and mind, you may bring a certain transformation to it in whatever way that you relate to it, and it is upon this basis that we can direct any response to this query. The other self that you perceive as being envious is the Creator, and that which they envy within you is their own fruit of their own seeking that they cannot realize in that moment. You, as a seeker attempting to manifest more and more of the Creator within yourself, offer a reflection that this other entity cannot see clearer, that it is simply witnessing itself in its own glory, and this glory being hidden from the self, it feels a sense of inadequacy. In addressing this dynamic, a sense of humility or humbleness is necessary in order to ensure that you, as a seeker attempting to serve this other self, are indeed offering a clear reflection. This is a nearly impossible feat to achieve within your density, for even the most experienced and dedicated seeker with many years of spiritual work under their belt, you may say, still maintains a sense of distortion within them. This is how your experience in third density was designed, and it is not expected that any entity achieved perfection and is able to walk as a clear, shining example of the one infinite Creator within your density. But the only way you can attempt to achieve anything close to this ideal is to approach the journey with a sense of humility and humbleness, understanding that whatever you have achieved on your own path is the work of the Creator, and to bow to that Creator within, understanding that it is the self that moves through the Creator and the Creator moves through the self. There is no distinction. The sense of self that you experience within your density can be mired in the illusion that it is separate. By allowing this seemingly separate self to bow to that self that recognizes the Creator in all, whether it is self or other self, or envy or appreciation, joy or sorrow, this sense of bowing to all that comes to the seeker is an important aspect of offering healing and true appreciation of the other self that one has come into relationship with. Only by carrying forward in the relationship with this understanding of the self, one can find resolution of this dynamic and offer an experience or environment for the other self if it chooses to realize the healing that is being asked for within the dynamic. We reiterate that this is a dynamic that is difficult to fully achieve clarity within your density. We can only encourage any seeker dealing with such interactions with other self that failure is often guaranteed in such relationships, but the dedication to healing and to finding oneness with other self and empowering the other self to see the Creator within themselves. So long as this dedication is maintained and reiterated through each attempt to relate to the other self, one may move forward in comfort and faith, knowing that eventually this illusion of separation between self and other self will dissolve, that the envy manifested within the other self may soon be transformed and realized to be the love and power of the Creator that it is attempting to manifest itself. Is there a follow-up to this query, my sister? I have a question, Puo. Since I've begun to start to awaken to more spiritual aspects of life, it's been a challenge to work what you would call a regular job. Could you offer some advice for those of us who work a traditional job? How can we make the most of what seems to be continual catalysts that are difficult and kind of hard to care much about when you want to focus on more spiritual things and less visible things? And can you offer any advice on how we can find what I would think would be more seemingly aligned ways to earn a living? And please direct it in any way if my question is a little off, because my ego is still very strong. I am Quo, and we have received your query and appreciate it, my sister. Indeed, we find both with our interactions with this particular group of seekers and in our observation of seekers upon your planet who awaken to the spiritual nature of themselves and their journey that this is quite a common query and concern for the seeker, for you realize accurately that there is much upon your planet and within your society that is constructed around an illusory view of your creation. The illusion of separation has solidified itself within much of your society's activities and how you relate to other selves and the environment around you, the things that you populate your attention with. The activities that you expend your energy on can seem to be unessential or distorted or honing in on the illusory aspect of your creation and not paying due attention to the essential spiritual nature that you have. You referenced in this query a sense of ego that you may feel in asking this query, and we would turn your attention toward that aspect, and not in a way that agrees that there is ego, as you would put it, within this query, but that there is something to examine in that framing of how the ego relates to one's environment and one's day-to-day life, for it is this ego, as you put it, that interfaces with these seemingly mundane aspects of your creation. As you attempt to pursue your spiritual path, it seems easier to set the so-called ego aside and engage in a more open-hearted and essential way that seems to give life to the self, where the creator and its love are felt flowing through the self. This flow can seem to be cut off when one must return to the day-to-day responsibilities of the so-called mundane world. We would point out that the perception of your illusion and the underlying spiritual nature is one that asks the self to identify the spiritual nature within all experiences. The love of the Creator exists within all interactions, in all moments, and the dynamic that awakens one to the spiritual nature of your journey is one that is not asking you to be pulled away from those other things in your life, but instead is offering you a glimpse of that thing that is always present, offering you the knowledge of the Creator so that you can bring that knowledge to all aspects of your life and seek the love of the Creator within those seemingly mundane moments. This can be an act of faith, and as we have spoken in other queries, an act of humility in giving oneself up to the Creator, to have faith that what one is experiencing in any moment is that which is prescribed by the Creator, and to release one's attempt to have any particular relationship with it, to control it in any way, to manifest the self in some particular necessary way, is an attempt to subvert the plan of the Creator. To release this attempt to relate in any particular way, and have faith that however you find your circumstances and however you find your heart relating to the circumstances is planned, and there is a lesson and an opportunity to dive deeper into the nature of your own self and of your creation as the one infinite Creator, and to discover the love of the one infinite Creator in every moment and in every interaction. This is the journey that is being hinted at in your spiritual awakening, and we find very commonly in your illusion of third density upon your planet, that when this attitude of surrender and faith to one's circumstances is manifested more and more within the self, and love is sought in more and more moments, then one either realizes the divine nature of one's circumstances and is able to manifest a joy and a peace within them, or one realizes and is able to allow things to fall away to manifest a new configuration that is perhaps pre-incarnationally planned, once one is able to reach a certain level of realization and piercing the illusion in a certain way. This is, as we said, an act of faith and requires a certain level of releasing one's desire to change one's circumstances until the point comes where the moment is known in the heart, and the potential of the moment is sensed intuitively, and the single step of faith can be taken without knowing for sure where it will lead you. But in doing so, those things that are not needed fall away, and you find yourself in a new configuration that will offer new challenges and new perspectives that call forth even more and more of the love and the light of the one infinite Creator. Is there a follow-up to this query, my sister? I have a question. So, as we've been doing the meditation for peace over the last many days, it came to me that for anyone who would kill someone else, that they also kill a part of themselves. Is that correct? I am Qo and am aware of your query, my sister. You are indeed correct. For each self on this planet and all planets are part of the one infinite Creator. Therefore, each self being a part of that Creator is another part of your own self. All selves are related in a way which most within your third density are unaware of. There is a seeming separation that divides oneself from an other self in order that each self may, at some point within the third density illusion, discover more of itself as time goes on, as the spiritual evolution progresses for the entity. This is the great lesson here within your third density illusion, that all are part of each other and each has a portion of the Creator within it. Thus, if the love and light that has been sent to all in all conflicts of bellicosity around your planet can be perceived in even the smallest degree by any victim or soldier, there is the possibility that they may feel this change in their own nature, their change in the way they perceive their own nature. And this then is hoped to be the catalyst, the realization of the unity of all of the creation and of oneself with each other self. This is the grand hope, the great work, and to participate in this work is to accentuate the love that exists in every moment, in every being, so that somehow there may be a realization at some point for more and more entities upon your planet that are engaged in the bellicosity that you see so rampant upon your planet at this time and throughout its history. This is the work of third density. And to aid that work, this is most helpful in the realization of each entity that it is. There a further query, my sister? So, in discussion with my women's group, one of the women is of a Jewish background, and she feels like she is back in the 1940s and feels at risk within this country at this time. And I was distressed, alarmed to hear that that would even be something that would be a fear. And I also have great compassion for both sides of this war in the Middle East and between Israel and Palestine. It was difficult to know how to respond. Just anything that you can add to that or guidance would be helpful. I am QO and am aware of your query, my sister. Throughout the history of your planet, there have been numerous wars where the seeming separation of one group from another group was accentuated to the point of the warring factions engaging in battle to try to win the war, to prevail, to have the correct position of interpretation of their path upon the planet. This is the great illusion that presents the opportunity to each segment of society, each country on the planet, each family within the planet, Earth's family of spiritual seekers that may or may not know there is more to the nature of reality than they are aware of. This is a lesson that repeats time and time again. There has been so much conflagration of wills that the true nature of the reality for any group has been blurred to the extent that there is no feeling of the true nature of unity between groups. There have been groups that have been forced into subjugation time and time again, and who wish to rise up out of the subjugation and subjugate those who have subjugated them. This is the great work of the third density illusion, to move through the perceived separation of peoples, whatever their nation, their creed, their color, to see that all. This is a journey that has been undertaken by many on other third density planets, and they have failed to learn the lesson, to see others as themselves and to serve them the majority of the time. They have been asked by their own higher selves to incarnate again on another third density planet to try to see this nature of reality as being unified. Many there are, therefore, on your planet at this time who have come here to try to learn the lessons again. This grows harder as time goes forward and becomes that which is the factor which has caused the lifespan of entities upon your planet to become shorter and shorter as the cycles of experience of 25,000 years have progressed. This is what is facing each at this time, the history of subjugation, the seeming separation being accepted as the way things are, and the drumbeat goes on with each following the same path time after time. It is hoped that at some point there will be the realization of all of the entities within the codification of bellicosity, that there will be an awakening, a realization that there is more to the life experience than the continual repetition of war and subjugation. Is there a further query, my sister? Yes. So since the planet itself has moved to the fourth, or my understanding anyway, correct me if I'm wrong, that the planet itself has moved to the fourth density vibration, and we humans are many who have just continued in this third density vibration, and they can't seem to get out of it. Will at some point the planet just, I guess I'm wondering what will happen with all of these third density people on a fourth density planet. Will there come a point where there are no more third density people allowed on the planet? I am Quayo and am aware of your query, my sister. This is the great question that has been asked a number of times in the past of this channeling circle. There is the possibility of the graduation coming to a close, you might say, so that the entities who have been able to open their hearts in unconditional love, a majority of the time will then become part of the social memory complex to planet Earth, which itself is, as you've said, in the fourth density already. Those who are unable to make this choice of service to others would then be required to find another third density planet to incarnate on once again. As we have said previously, this is a process which has a growing difficulty for realization, as more and more entities have to repeat the cycle again and again. However, we are pleased to say that this will eventually occur for all third density beings where there is an infinity of time for this progression to take place. It may seem slow, it may seem difficult, it may seem like it will never end, but at some point it shall. Those of Ra suggested that the volatility of the people of this planet at this time is such that it is difficult to say how long the third density illusion will last, for there is so much rage and horror within the current population that it may take anywhere from 100 to 700 of your years for this third density to find its end. Eventually, though, this third density shall end, and those who have polarized in the positive sense shall become a social memory complex of the fourth density upon this earth, and those who have to graduate to other planets for their own evolutionary process will then take up that process in another third density planetary influence. Is there a further query, my sister? Yes, QO. Sometimes I feel like I know the right thing to do, the way that I'm supposed to go, but I don't want to do it, like deep inside me don't want to. What do I do in that situation? I am Quo, and I'm aware of the query, my sister. We find that this dynamic described within your query is also somewhat common upon the journey of the seeker within your illusion, for your illusion has constructed itself in such complicated ways that the perception of what you think should happen or what you should do is clear. And yet, the bounds of the illusion, those things holding you within its grasp, prevent you from easily taking that step. In some ways, this is a blessing. Similar to how one of your peoples, wishing to exercise and become stronger, must progressively lift heavier and heavier weights. This difficulty created within your illusion allows the seeker to progress in a rapid and effective way by offering more difficult and difficult challenges to the seeker. So, we would encourage any feeling this dynamic to first start with that mindset of gratitude and understanding that whatever situation is placed in front of you, the difficulty that you find within it, the challenge of making the choice that you perceive to be right, is itself a gift and a catalyst offering you opportunity on your path. And approaching these situations with that mindset allows you to engage with them in a way that is in harmony with the dance of the creation and invites the Creator to bless the interaction. Though you may not find that just holding this mindset unravels these binds of the illusion makes such choices difficult. In such situations, we encourage the seeker to examine the situation carefully within one's meditative practice to cultivate that space of sacred silence within the self, so that such situations can be held within the self, absent of judgment, and you can see clearly not only the circumstances that are causing such a challenge, but you can perceive the distortions within the self that are holding you back from this perceived choice. There are an infinite number of things that can be revealed to you. In doing so, we find a common aspect that perpetuates difficulty is the judgment of the self within such a dynamic, where one perceives a certain failure for not being able to easily take this step, a certain self-criticism, even a self-flagellation in knowing or believing that there is a proper course of action but finding difficulty in such. It is easy within your illusion of separation to believe that this, but we encourage you to understand that there is no such thing as failure in this sense, particularly in the space where you cultivate a relationship with the Creator and come to an understanding that the situation itself, where you believe there is a proper course of action, is a construction of the Creator's journey for you. So too is the difficulty that you find within yourself proper, for it is not just those things outside of you or the actions that you feel you can take that inform your spiritual journey, but equally so is your relationship with yourself. It is a gentleness and a patience and a loving kindness and encouragement of the self that holds no expectation, that allows one to ease the binds of the illusion within the self and outside of the self, and makes it clear to the self the proper course of action for the self, and allows the faith that is cultivated through this relationship with seeking the Creator in each inner and outer dynamic, that then makes the step perceived as the proper step easier to take. Is there a follow-up to this query, my sister? Yes, Kuo. The previous questions on killing and violence caused this similar question to pop in my head. Today, as we're sitting here, it is the start of deer hunting season in this state, and many people are excited about going out in the woods with weapons and ending the life of animals called deer. I assume that when they kill these deer, they're killing a part of themselves. Is it somehow ameliorated or made less harmful if you use the creature that you've killed for food? Or because you're reducing the high numbers of deer in a particular area, is that somehow different than the other violence we were talking about. I am Quo, and I'm aware of the query, my brother. We find this a somewhat difficult query to engage with. We perceive within your culture many questions and judgments about such dynamics and such queries, and we do not wish to infringe upon the right of your culture to grapple with these things in a sense that allows them to discover for themselves the nature of the creation and how one may relate to the creation. We can only encourage any of those attempting to contemplate and grapple with, and perhaps even perform some activism within this area, to examine within the self any particular judgment that one might project onto other selves who hold a particular view of the creation and act in particular ways that are indeed harmful and painful for the other selves, those dear that you described within your query. And as you attempt to identify the ways in which you relate to other selves who hold these orientations, you can then, you might say, zoom out and take a view of a larger progression of the Creator within your density, and how these things unfold in a particular way, though often unpleasant, and through the catalyst of suffering that eventually reveals the nature of the Creator to self and to other self. And within this revelation, a particular relationship to your creation, such as the necessity of feeding oneself, the act of seeming destruction contained within the death of another being, and how this might sustain or benefit the self in some way, can be consecrated and can be contained within a sacred environment. But this is not necessarily a goal or a prescription for how to consider these things, for as one continues to ask the self how one may refine one's relationship with the creation in a way that manifests the light and the love of the Creator more and more within those relationships, the dynamic may change and shift, and what was once seemingly sacred and contained the purity of the Creator may shift again, and one may come into an even pure and more informed relationship with the Creator within such interactions. Is there a follow-up to this query, my brother? Yes, Qo. What are the descriptions of the achievements that will occur in the fifth dimension? I'm Qo and am aware of your query, my sister. The fifth dimension is that which is vibrating within the nature of wisdom, the light that shines upon the creation in an enhanced sense, so that the entities existing within the fifth dimension are those which have learned the ways or laws of love that are the primary feature of the fourth dimension. The fifth dimension then enhances the quality and quantity of love's ability to manifest light in a way which shows a greater and greater reality, the nature of the one infinite Creator. This is the dimension in which this lesson is manifested as wisdom within each seeker of truth that inhabits the fifth density. It is of the wisdom of discernment, the wisdom of seeing the truer nature of creation, so that there is a greater ability to serve the one Creator by reflecting this light or wisdom to all about one, and to offer oneself in service to others within the lower, especially that which is the third dimension that you now inhabit. Many come from the fifth dimension as what you would call wanderers, who offer themselves in service to your planet to lighten the planetary vibrations by their very presence and to engage in the serving of others in whatever manner is their own particular talents. Thus, each dimension from the fourth, the fifth, and the sixth then may offer the wanderer as a means by which to enhance the planetary vibrations and be of service in that regard. Thus, the fifth dimension is what you might call a way station or a point of balance that will eventually transcend the light and move into the sixth density of the power that allows entities to be of greater service to others again as wanderers or as instruments that project words to groups such as are doing to this group and this time. Is there a further query, my sister? Yes, Qo. I have a question about something you said earlier about empowering others to see the Creator within themselves. I find myself doing this and being met with some resistance from the other side. But I also feel like I can't help but do this, even though the resistance makes me think I should not press or share when things come up that might help this other self see themselves as the Creator. And I was wondering if you, because it can make me begin to doubt myself when they can't see it as clearly as I feel I can in that moment. I was wondering if you could offer some advice on what to do around situations like that. I am Quo and am aware of your query. My sister, when you are finding yourself in relationship to those who are unaware of the nature of their own identity and seem unable to move beyond what they perceive as their identity, you feel that you must in some way be able to aid their perception, their expanding knowledge of who they are and why they are here on this earth. This is a great service to wish to offer to, and it is that which others may appreciate if they are able to see that there is a greater view and overview, shall we say, that expands their perception of their own being as being that of the Creator, that of being each other self's other self. This is something that is the great journey and work of the third density experience. As we have mentioned before, the veil of forgetting causes each person within the third density to forget the true nature of reality as being unity, created by the power of love, manifested into the material objects that you see as light. This unity of creation, then, is deeply buried within each entity, covered by the veil of forgetting. And yet it is there as a seed awaiting the attention of the entity to grow more and more into realization. Thus, whenever you are able to relate to another in a spiritual sense that you feel has this difficulty of seeing who they really are, that is a great service to offer, for each one can teach one, and those spiritual paths that develop from the interrelationship of various entities seeking together the nature of reality, then becomes the path that becomes more and more obvious to the path seeker, the one who wishes to know more of itself. Is there a further query, my sister? QO. What can you tell us about the origin and purpose of the moon, our moon? Is it an accidental satellite of the Earth? Or, as some people believe, was it placed there in orbit around the Earth purposefully for a reason? I am Quo, and I'm aware of your query, my brother. The satellite which you refer to as the moon is a satellite of planet Earth that is a pairing of objects in space, as you might say, that have been placed there by the logos of this major galaxy, your Milky Way galaxy. There is a kind of balance and relationship between the moon, which has its effects upon the water of your planet, giving the high tides and the low tides, and also having an astrological relationship with the various entities of planet Earth that are in the third density experience and who are also primarily created of water and move in a certain rhythm according to the part of the moon that is able to affect the water nature of the third density being. This is a small example of how relationships of orbiting objects, such as the moon with Earth, is throughout the infinite Creator's universe made apparent that there may be relationships that are beneficial to the entities upon planets that have these orbiting moons. Shall we say, there is the unity of the one Creator being expressed in a seeming separation of planets and moons, and third density, fourth density, fifth density, and sixth density entities that also are affected by these orbiting planetary entities. Is there a further query, my brother? I do notice within myself that at different phases of the moon, I feel different. For instance, when there's a full moon, when the moon appears full to me, I feel tension. I feel some sort of extra energy. Is there a way to harness or use the energy of the moon to progress spiritually? I am Kwa'o and am aware of your query, my brother. As with any energy that you perceive that is becoming cyclical in your life experience, in this case, the nature of the moon being full or less full, it is the ability that you have to set your intention to utilize that energy in whatever manner you choose. It is not something that can only be used in a certain manner. It is how you wish to use that energy. Thus, you may use it for your own expanded awareness of the nature of reality around you. You may use it to be of further service to others. You may use it to increase your meditative stance, shall we say. You may use it to increase your journey of seeking the truth. There are many other ways as well. Is there a further query, my brother? I have a question. Will the Earth finally reach all densities as a physical planet? I'm Ku'u, and I'm aware of the query, my sister. We of the Confederation of Planets in the service to the one infinite Creator have access to a perception of time or space that reveals probabilities and possibilities that are hidden to those within the third density. And it is through this perception we are able to comment loosely upon such questions as to what can or may occur in what you perceive as the future. And to the extent that we understand the nature of your query, the planet Earth and its progression through the densities, we see the largest possibility and probability that the planet Earth has a grand journey ahead of it, both in physical and non-physical terms, in combination with the planetary population upon it, for the two are inseparable, particularly at this nexus. In this query, and through our response, we encourage any contemplating the nature of this journey to reach deep within the self and locate that nature of one's own self that is one with the planet. And in doing so, realize that your beautiful planet Earth, or Gaia or Terra, as it has been called, is not separate from you, and that together you form a singular being that is on a distinct and beautiful journey of progression of self and realization of self, as the one infinite creator, and it is through your own journey that your planet is informed and is able to make its own journey, and you are enabled and empowered on this journey by the planet. The relationship can be seen as symbiotic in the same way that various aspects of your whole body, containing various organs and organelles, and even seemingly separate microbial organisms, operates as a single functioning whole that can have a single identity and operate as a single unit. And it is through this operation as a single identity, planet, and population that this journey may unfold through all densities available within your octave. Is there a further query, my sister? Yes. Does this transition on this planet impact the universe in a way that we can understand at this point? I am Quito and am aware of the query, my sister. There is much hidden from the perspective of the seeker within the third density that obfuscates that term used within your query. For there is no single iota of the creation that can take any action or receive any attention that doesn't infinitely impact the rest of the creation. For the one infinite creator is contained within each molecule of the creation, and all things that happen influence all other things within the creation. Though we understand the nature of your query as it is intended, and that the scale of the transformation of your planet and the population upon it seems, from your perspective, to be quite grand and meaningful, and we can affirm that in the dance of the creation and the one infinite creator manifest within it, that the transition of your planet is indeed a grand act, a very meaningful climax for this portion of the creation. This is not to elevate your journey or your planet's journey above the journey of any of the other parts of the creation. For all is the creator, and there are many grand events and acts and dances and movements happening throughout the infinite creation at any moment, each empowered and potentiated by the full infinite love and light of the one infinite creator. And just as your planetary transformation will transform the rest of the creation and be felt through the ends of infinity, so too does each other transformation. Large and small influence you and all other aspects of the one infinite creation. Is there a further query, my sister? I have a question. So I'm a huge Star Trek fan, and I wonder if that concept exists out there somewhere, where there are planets and beings who work together and accept each other even though there's always conflict. Does that truly exist, or is that a figment of Gene Roddenberry's imagination? I'm Kuo, and am aware of the query, my sister. We appreciate the humor and fun contained within this query, for we of the Confederation of Planets in service to the one infinite creator have an awareness of this myth within your culture called Star Trek, and the impact that this had upon your planetary consciousness, and how you, as a population, conceive of not only your own set but your place within the universe, and how entities such as we can interact with you. This particular mythology was not manifested within the bounds of a single mind, and it did not come from a vacuum of nothing. The one known as Gene Roddenberry, indeed, perceived something that, to the point of your query, is in a sense very real in terms of how entities and planets can work together and can perceive and explore the nature of the one infinite creator as it is manifest within the creation. But we would iterate that such a depiction of this dynamic is very much informed by the dynamics of your own culture, particularly the material or materialist aspects of your culture that view the creation as fundamentally material, and thus the exploration and journeys discovered within this mythology have a strong focus upon the nature of a material universe. But we find the magic contained within such a depiction is the manifestation and the demonstration of how the nature of the one infinite creator that can be defined as spiritual or philosophical can be discovered within such a seemingly material depiction of the experience. And so while the depiction is real in a very meaningful way, there is much, much more to the nature of associations of planets such as we of the Confederation of Planets, and the depiction is a very limited view of what it might look like to those who journey further upon the path of the seeker to the one infinite creator through the densities of your orchid. Is there a follow-up to this query, my sister? So Kuo, when I call upon you, and I increasingly do call upon you, and I appreciate your help in many, many occasions, I have a tendency to try and visualize you, Kuo. I try and visualize, I may visualize a group of beings or light, and I know that this is my third density habit of objectifying and visualizing, and wanting to associate something with some kind of material or appearance. Be that as it may I please request, is there some way that I can visualize you or imagine you when I'm calling upon you that may strengthen the connection between us? I am Kuo and am aware of your query, my brother. This query is not easily answered in an objective sense, for there is more to our beingness than can be described in what you call words. We would recommend, if you wish to call upon us in a manner which is helpful and understandable to you, that you might see us as being light of a certain vibration, as being dense in this light, so that it can be formed in whatever way you feel is most appropriate, whether it be of a great grouping of entities, a choir singing within your skies, or whether it may be of the quality of love, which may be perceived as all-embracing and surrounding you with its arms to give you the spiritual hug, or we may be seen as that which is of infinite quality of beingness that surrounds you everywhere. We would suggest that whatever matter of visualization has meaning to you is that shape we can take for you and aid you in whatever way you wish us to be of service to you. Is there any further query, my brother? No, Kuo, thank you. And I just want to say live long and prosper. At this time, we shall take our leave of this group, leaving each in love in light, with great gratitude for your beingness that shines so brightly within the heavens. We are known to you as those of Kuo